Okay. Hello, everyone. We are back with a brand new version of Quarantine Kitchen. It is now called Pantry to Plate. You know where we are. We're at the Atlanta Community Food Bank in the Learning Kitchen, and we are so excited to be back and share the same style information, but with a fancy new upgrade. And we're going to go ahead and get started. I want to say thanks for your patience. We had a little bit of technical difficulties, but I mean, it just happens. It comes with the territory. Okay, so here we go. I'm Kristen Elliott, as you know, and today I'm going to talk about how you can build a staple pantry at your house that will help you in the long run when it comes to meal planning and how often you have to grocery shop. Today, what we are going to make is one of my favorite staple pantry recipes. It's called chicken tacos. So all of the ingredients are going to come straight from your pantry, and I'm excited to show you the recipe. I'm also going to say that Joy is in the chat box today. You might remember Joy. She's going to answer your questions, and we will bring your questions up at the end and share them with everyone. Okay, Joy, can you show us the food? Perfect. Okay, so before we went live, I wanted to go ahead and get my onions started. So my recipe includes canned black beans. I've got canned corn. I've got canned chicken. I already seasoned my chicken, so this has chili powder on it. We're going to use a jar of salsa, add some of our flavor, and then we're starting with a chopped onion. So you're going to add about 1 tablespoon of oil to your pan and let it heat up. You'll add your onion, and we're on about a medium heat, and we're going to let it cook for about 5 minutes until the onions start to look clear. So that's going to be like the longest process to wait for at the beginning of the recipe. So we're going to let that cook, and we're going to start talking about what it means to stock your pantry with staple items. Okay, so Joy, you can take the food off now. Cool. So we have created this amazing handout, well, we think it's amazing, on how to stock your pantry. It's a little hard to see right now, but each of these categories on the sheet are your food groups. So you're thinking, Kristen, what does a staple pantry mean? A staple pantry means that you have basic cooking items in your pantry at home where you can go home and put together a quick meal without having to go to the grocery store. So staple items can be different based on where you're from or what your household likes based on your preferences, or where you get your food from. So our pantry staple list is filled with lots of foods that you would typically find at a food pantry. So this is not all inclusive of what a basic pantry can look like, but we wanted to put this together to give you some tips and ideas on what you can look for when you go to a food pantry. And it will also help you meal plan because you can already have some ideas of what you might find. So the categories on our list are grains, proteins, dairy, fruits and vegetables, baking, that includes things like flour and sugar. And then on the back, we've got oils and vinegars and sauces, and then seasonings. So we've got some basic seasonings that are going to be really beneficial for you to just keep in stock in your pantry so you don't have to worry about running to the store to buy a seasoning packet for chili seasoning, and you could make your own chili seasoning with just chili powder and cumin. So those are a couple of ideas that you can use our stocking list for. Okay, our onions are looking good. They're starting to look a little bit clear. Okay, so I'm going to give the onions just a couple more minutes, and I wanted to tell you about some interesting ways to keep your food organized at home. So there are lots of ways that you can do this. You can download an app on your phone where you keep up with your lists, and you can make a grocery list from it. I'm a low-tech person. I like to see it. If I can't see it, I'm going to forget that it's there, and then it won't help me. I'll have to open my phone every time I need to look for something. So one way that I like to do is to use a dry erase board on my refrigerator. So you can do a dry erase board, or you can use a sheet of paper where you keep your food inventoried so you can see what you have instead of having to go search through your pantry or search through your fridge every time you want to make something. So you can organize your food inventory by food groups or where you store it at your house. I like to organize it based on where the food is stored, so I know what's in my freezer, I know what's in my fridge, and I know what's in my pantry. So this is an example of how I keep track of my food at home. So I've over here on this side, well, I've got my freezer section, and I've got it divided up into meat and meals and fruits and vegetables that are in my freezer. And then I've got my fridge section. That's going to be some of our non-shelf stable items like milk and eggs and already cut vegetables. And then we've got our pantry section. That's all of our dry goods. And then at the bottom, it says need. So one way you can do this is you can, if you can see on the bottom where it says fridge, the word onion is circled. So I like to circle items when I need to use them sooner than later. It draws my attention to it. And then you may see where it says milk under fridge and it's marked out. So I like to mark out the items when I use it and then add it to my need list at the bottom corner. So you know what you need to add to your grocery list before you go to the grocery store. So you can use a sheet of paper on your refrigerator and just magnetize it and take the paper with you when you go shopping. That's a very easy way to do it. Or if you use a dry erase board like me, you can just take a picture of it and check your picture as you're grocery shopping. So those are a couple of ways to keep your food organized. All right, let's go check these onions. Joy, can you show us the pot? There we go. Those look beautiful. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is basically add all of the other ingredients. So our onions are cooked. I'm going to go ahead and add my salsa because I want to make sure that I am mixing the onions in with the salsa. So this is a 15-ounce jar of salsa. Most salsas are this size at the grocery store. You can choose whatever flavor or spicy level that you like when it comes to salsa. I've never made this with green salsa, but I think it would be delicious. So this is a medium spicy salsa because I like a little bit of spice. So I'm mixing in my onions and my salsa. I'm going to go ahead and add my chicken. So a quick tip about canned chicken. You either love it or you hate it. And it's a very awesome staple pantry item to have because it mixes in well into other dishes. So you wouldn't eat canned chicken straight out of the can, but you can mix it into other stuff and it'll mix in really well. And it's already cooked and all it needs to do is be heated through. So make sure you drain your canned chicken. And one thing I like to do is to go ahead and season the chicken. So I went ahead and put my chili powder for this recipe on my chicken. So it's got a chance to marinate and make it all taste better. I'm going to go ahead and add my chicken. This is 2 cans of chicken. So you can also use leftover chicken that you might have from a previous meal. You only need 2 cups of chicken. All right, so there's my chicken. I'm going to go ahead and add my beans. This is 1 can of black beans. So you don't have to use black beans. If that is not your favorite type of bean, you can use any kind that you like. Pinto beans are personally my favorite, so I often use pinto beans in this recipe at home. Okay, there's my beans. And then this is 1 can of corn. All right, so you're going to use any of your favorite type of beans for this. Okay, so this is it. This is your chicken taco filling. All you need to do is put the lid on it and let it come to just a simmer one time so it heats all the way through, and then you will have a delicious dinner. So you can serve this in so many different ways. We call it chicken tacos, but you don't have to serve it like a taco. We're gonna let this simmer now. You can serve it over rice or pasta, have like some Mexican pasta. I'm gonna say Tex-Mex pasta. Or you can, what was I saying? You can serve it over a baked potato and have like a stuffed potato style. So consider what you have available to you. It doesn't have to be a taco. Maybe you have potatoes, so you make a stuffed potato, and you can save a couple dollars on tortillas for something else, like an extra item that you could stock in your pantry for later. Okay, I feel like I went through that really fast. So a thing to keep in mind when it comes to canned goods, they're typically canned with a good bit of salt, and that is part of the preservation. So one thing that you can keep in mind, especially if you're really paying attention to your salt intake, is to always drain your canned goods. So for my chicken, I drained that. I didn't rinse it because I wanted to try to keep as much chicken flavor as I could from the can, but eliminating the liquid. When it comes to canned beans, I recommend to always drain and rinse them. Beans have a bad reputation for like making your stomach hurt or maybe making you gassy. So if you drain the liquid off from the can, you can decrease the amount of gas that you might have from the beans, because part of the carbohydrate in the beans kind of comes out into the liquid in the can. I'm not saying that you will not have any, because beans are full of fiber. And I've said this 100 times. If you're eating a lot of fiber, you need to drink a lot of water to balance everything out. Yes. So drain and rinse all of your canned vegetables to help you control the salt. You can always add salt, but you can't take it away. Okay. Let me see. What else? Yeah. So let's go back to our stocking a pantry handout, and I want to share a couple of things in each of the food groups. So on our grains category, we've got things like rice. So that can be any type of rice, brown white rice, or any kind of wild rice. You might see all kinds of things at the food pantry. We've got pasta. So think about grabbing some noodles like spaghetti, or some small pasta like bow ties. You can use those in different ways. We've got oatmeal, quinoa. Sometimes that can be at the pantry, but you also might see things like grits. And so those are really good staples to have. And then crackers and bread. We include some blanks on each of the food categories, so you can add some of your own staple items that you include in your regular meals. Let's see here. So for proteins, we're talking shelf-stable protein. So we're looking at canned meats like salmon or tuna or chicken. Sometimes we have beef coming through the food bank, and sometimes we have pork. So those are all good items to consider picking up at the pantry to just have on hand when you need to put together a quick meal. For dairy, we've got UHT milk, which is the boxed milk that sits on the shelf. So that's the shelf-stable milk, and it has a long shelf life. So that's good to have just kind of in the background if you happen to run out of your fresh milk, which is the number one choice. I totally understand that. Having something like that in the background is a good buffer for you if you need it. And then fruits and vegetables, we're talking about shelf stable. So any canned vegetables that you like, your preference is key here. Canned tomatoes, any canned tomatoes are gonna work in just about any recipe that calls for tomato sauce or tomatoes. So look for whole canned tomatoes, or diced or crushed, or sauce or paste. You can make tomato sauce from tomato paste. So if you just happen to only have paste, you can make spaghetti out of it. Some other vegetables are going to be your dehydrated potato flakes. You can put together some mashed potatoes, or you can add it to a soup and thicken it up. And there are some fresh vegetables that fit into the shelf-stable category that have a really long shelf life, like onions and potatoes, white potatoes and sweet potatoes. Cabbage actually has a really long shelf life when you store it in the refrigerator. So cabbage is a good one to keep in mind. And then last but not least, carrots. Carrots will last for so long in your refrigerator. And that's a good, easy vegetable to add to just about any dish. When it comes to fruits, we're looking at canned fruits that are in 100% juice, not in syrup or light syrup, but something canned in juice is going to be better for you in the long run. It's still going to be sweet because you're getting the sweet from the fruit itself and the juice that it's canned in. But if you get a canned fruit that has that in syrup, there's added sugar to that, and fruit doesn't need added sugar. Fruit is sweet on its own, so keep that in mind. Some shelf-stable fresh vegetables, fruits are going to be apples and oranges. Those are going to last a while, especially if you put them in your refrigerator, and you can have those on hand for making some oatmeal, and you can put some apples on top, or just for snacking on the side. Some other staple pantry items that can support your cooking are things like flour and baking powder, baking soda, cornstarch, and sugar. So if you've got those, you can put a cake together, or you can make some muffins at your whim. If that's what you feel like making and you have those ingredients, you can easily do that without having to plan ahead and go to the grocery store. The back has seasonings and some oils and vinegars. So it's good to have a couple vinegar options when you're able to do that. So like an apple cider and a balsamic vinegar, you can use those to make salad dressings. And you can also use them in marinades for meats or stir fries, all the things. And then we've got a basic seasonings list. We've got Italian seasoning, onion powder and garlic powder. No salt added, though. We want plain garlic and plain onion because you can add the salt, but you can't take it away. We're looking at chili powder and curry powder. Cinnamon is going to be good for baked goods, or you can put it in your tea. And then we've got ground ginger or fresh ginger. So that might sound like maybe that's not one of your first thoughts for your pantry, but that's a really beneficial to make Asian style food. So if you want to make a stir fry, or you want to make like a teriyaki sauce, having that ground ginger or fresh ginger in your fridge will help you whip together a stir fry really quickly. We've got, like I said before, we've got all of these blanks here for you to fill out to include your own staple pantry items. And then the tips about keeping your food organized using your dry erase board or a sheet of paper are all listed here at the bottom, so you can reference back to that. Okay, let's go check our food. All right, we've got bubbles. There we go. That's all we need. We need it to come to a bubble one time to just make sure that it's heated all the way through, because everything in this dish is fully cooked except for the onions, and we cooked those first. So we've got a beautiful chicken taco mix here. So I'm wondering if anybody noticed that I didn't add any salt to this dish. Do we have any comments about salt in the dish? So I like to consider where the salt is coming from in all of my ingredients before I salt it. So all of our canned goods here are going to have some salt. Whether you drained it and rinsed it or not, it's going to come with some salt. The salsa is pre-seasoned, so it's going to have a good bit of salt in it. Not a ton. We're in a good number here for the amount of salt per serving. So just keep that in mind before you add salt. And then also remember that you should taste it before you salt it, because it may already be fine and flavorful enough without having to add additional salt that your body may not necessarily need. So, one of the ways that you can serve these tacos is as a taco, the traditional way. So I've got a whole grain flour tortilla here, and there's a couple of ways to serve this. So if you use a corn tortilla that is smaller, you want to use 1/4 cup of filling, so you don't overfill it, but you can also feed the amount of servings that the recipe makes. For the bigger tortilla, I'm going to say you can use 1/2 cup. I'm saying you can use, this is a recommendation. This is not exactly how it needs to be, just ideas to consider. Okay. So I've got my 1/2 cup scoop here for my big taco. Here we go. That's going to be, that's plenty, right? That is plenty of filling for one taco. And I've got some toppings that you can add to your tacos. Let me see. I'm going to do this. Oh, we're not in. I've got some shredded cheese, just a little bit, and some chopped cilantro, just as like some toppings. And that is your pantry stable chicken tacos. It smells really good. Okay. Joy, how's it going in the chat box?
We've got some wonderful comments from Lindy. She's surprised that you didn't add any salt to that.
No salt.
Yakin says that he loves this new series for how to utilize convenience items. Thank you, Yakin.
Thank you.
And Althea had wonderful things to say, and she says that she likes to keep on hand in her pantry vinegars, different oils, unrefined sunflower oil because it's cheap and full of flavor. Canned fish like sardines and anchovy paste, and tomato paste because it lasts a long time and adds tons of flavor.
Thank you so much for sharing, Althea. That is a great example of paying attention to your preferences and choosing what your staple foods are. As that many people may not like anchovies. I like anchovies, and I love that you pointed that out, Althea. Also, the safflower oil is on our list of oils on our pantry stocking list because safflower is one of the oils that have a larger amount of unsaturated fat and little bit of saturated fat. So that's going to be a heart benefiting oil. So thanks for pointing that one out too, Althea. All right. I really appreciate you all showing up today for our first episode of Pantry to Plate. We're super excited to be back. You can see a bit.ly link at the bottom of the screen, and that's going to take you to our pantry stocking list that we discussed today. And then from there, you can find the rest of the nutrition resources that we have put together for you from the food bank. So thanks again for joining us. We'll be back in a couple weeks with episode number 4 of Come Bien en Casa. We're going to be celebrating the tail end of Latin American Heritage Month. So we will see you then. Pay attention to the Facebook page to see when the next episode of Pantry to Plate will be. Thank you so much for joining.